I know you know the feeling of putting on an outfit that technically fits, it's in your size, but something about it just feels wrong. Maybe the seams feel scratchy, the fabric feels really stiff, or you feel like there's not enough room and expansion for your breathing. You might just be like spending all day tugging at the waistband. And honestly, maybe you don't even fully realize that your clothing is bugging you until the end of the day when you go to take it off and you're like, oh dear God, I'm free. Like you rip it off and all of a sudden your body can relax, and you just then start to realize how maybe subconsciously you've been uncomfortable all day. Okay, so let me drop you into the start of my maid of honor speech at my sister's wedding. You'll see how I know how you feel.
All right, and before Leah starts her speech, she has to unzip the back of her dress or she's going to implode. So, now that we have some breathing room and fog, I'm not going to turn around because that'll be quite the show.
Like Purple Rain's about to come on.
Hello.
So the rest of the speech went great, let me just say. But honestly, I did not want to zip that dress back up while eating the buffet at the wedding or doing my insane, crazy dance moves. It just was so uncomfortable, even though when I tried on that dress in the dressing room, not that long before the wedding, it fit. It was in my size. It technically was right. It's just that there were key parts about the design that made it feel uncomfortable and honestly drained my energy throughout an event that I wanted to feel really present and energized at. So for me, this feeling that I'm trying to describe here is kind of next level because I learned just last year that I'm considered what is to be a highly sensitive person, which basically just means that my nervous system picks up on more subtle changes in stimuli than other people might notice, like social cues, textures, sounds, lighting, and movement. It then also comes at no surprise that basically wrapping my whole body in uncomfortable clothing all day is going to make me feel a little bit overstimulated and drained, in addition to all of the other kind of over-the-top stimuli that we get in today's modern world. And hey, if this little intro here resonates with you, you might be an HSP too. Apparently, like 20 to 25% of us have this higher sensitivity to stimuli. You can take this HSP self-test by Dr. Elaine Aron over on her website. I'll link that in the description. And just in case you're wondering, because I do get this comment and question a lot from friends, family, and my YouTube subscribers, being a highly sensitive person is technically different than ADHD and autism. We do, of course, share some overstimulation in certain contexts, but it is its kind of own like unique way of being in the world. Now, an upside of being an HSP is that I really honestly think it makes me a way better clothing designer. So I design and sew clothes for my handmade clothing business, Charlie Darwin Textiles, and I also release the sewing patterns for all of you to DIY yourself. But honestly, even if you don't identify as an HSP, I really feel like most people still experience that energy drain from wearing uncomfortable clothing, whether you're consciously realizing it or not. And that's why when I'm creating sewing patterns for myself and the population at large, I really think that comfort is a non-negotiable. It's a super high priority and value for me. It's really not just about looking good, but about how good it feels to wear the clothes, to have them up against your skin, to move in them and breathe in them and just exist and eat and be all of the cool human things that you want to be while wearing clothes. I've been keeping skin sensitivities very top of mind as I was designing this sanctuary jumpsuit, the jumpsuit that I'm in right now. I'm digitizing it into a sewing pattern for you to be able to buy. Shout out, it's going to be available mid-March. But in this design process, I really obsessed over a lot of the little details, like achieving a really like flowy drape, optimizing it for more breathable fabrics, really smoothing out my seams, and thinking about how can I make the closures and the waistline and the shoulders so that they don't dig into your skin in any way. All right, so let's talk details about how to make or buy clothes that feel good to wear. I think and hope that these tips will really make a difference in how your clothing adds to or depletes from your energy. Our ultimate goal here is to feel comfortable and confident and to just forget that you're wearing clothes even while you're wearing clothes. So let's go ahead and dive in. I've got about 5 kind of categories here that I want to break down. The first one is choosing the right style or design. Here, what you want to do is think 2 steps back. Before even the garment, we're going to think, what undergarments are we going to wear with this outfit? Because undergarments are the things that are going to be the closest to your skin, and sometimes they're the most restricting. For me, I know it's different for everyone, but for me, bras are my worst nightmare. I don't like how they like restrict my chest right here. They cut in at my shoulders and in my back. I hate bras. So I like to look for styles and designs that are really good for not wearing a bra at all. I don't know, I don't feel very self-conscious about being braless here. I know I have a smaller chest. Some of you with bigger chests are like, screw you, I always have to wear a bra. Maybe you don't, I don't know. Maybe you feel more comfortable in one. Maybe you have a super comfy bra and I'm missing out. But I hate wearing bras. So if you're like me, you might look for designs that have a little bit more ease or roominess in the bust so that it's not pulled super tight against your chest. And you might also look for bodices that have more pleats or texture going on right here. Like you can see I have my waistband that gives this extra little action happening right here, and that kind of breaks it up. With this, you might also think about fabrics. Does it have good opacity? You want it to be not see-through so that if you're going to go without a bra or you want to wear your ugliest, most comfy bra. And same thing for your booty. I hate wearing stupid thongs and uncomfortable underwear. Sometimes I wear granny panties. I recently got into these kind of like boxer brief shorts that are really nice, but you know, they might show underlines if I wore really tight pants. So I like to wear more kind of fluid, roomy, flowy pants, and that way my underwear lines are never an issue. So along with this, I kind of mentioned looking for garments that have a little bit more flow or ease. Ease is like the amount of extra roominess you have between, you know, here's my tight body, look how much ease there is. There's all this extra room. I think this is especially important if the garment is made with woven fabric. If your fabric doesn't have much stretch to it, that's fine. You just want to have that little bit of extra room in there so you can dance and move around. Same thing goes for looking for designs that might have an elastic waistband instead of something harsh like a zipper, because zippers are not only kind of like clunky to against your skin when you rub up against them, but a zipper is not going to give you that sort of expandable quality that an elastic waistband has. Real quick, if you're looking to make an outfit that can be kind of like fancy but comfy at the same time, then you're going to want to stay tuned for my Sanctuary jumpsuit sewing pattern. You can already buy the garment made to measure over at Charlie Darwin Textiles, but now I am giving you the blueprints, the sewing pattern itself of this design so you can make it yourself and do any little fun design tweaks to make it not just cozy, comfy, but super personalized to your style. I'm going to be releasing the sewing pattern mid-March. The best way to get updated when it comes out is to join my email newsletter. I'm going to link to it down in the description below. And I can't wait to sew the Sanctuary jumpsuit with you. I've baked in a lot of versatility and cool customizations to it. I think you're going to love it. All right, next category we should talk about is fabric choice. I really think that fabric choice is so specific to each person. All you can do, I think, is like test things and pay attention to how they make you feel as you're wearing them. You know, I really prefer certain textures, but I see people in my YouTube comments or in real life who really have an affinity to something different than me. I'm gonna tell you my preferences right now in case you're kind of in the same boat as me, but yours, I acknowledge, might be totally different. First, let's talk about the fiber content. We wanna be thinking breathability and temperature regulation. Fabrics that are super well known for having good breathability and temperature regulation are linen is like number one, cotton is also pretty good. Polyester is bad for breathability, temperature regulation. It also tends to hold on to odors more. And so I find, like, as a highly sensitive person, I hate bad smells. We all hate bad smells, yes, but I smell them really quickly and really strongly. And I love great smells, which is the other bright side to this, but I'm very sensitive to when my clothing smells bad, and I feel like polyester clothes get stinky quickly and holds on to that stink, sometimes even after you wash it. Whereas I feel like my linen clothes, and I've had tons of people tell me the same experience, my linen clothes, first of all, they rarely ever get even stinky while you're wearing them, and you can wear them like 10 times before you put them in the wash. Like, they truly do not collect stink as much. So that's a great part about using linen as far as that breathability, temperature, odor, bacterial regulation, top notch. Now, when you're thinking about what kind of fiber or material for your garment, density, we already talked about how density is a factor here. So it's going to be a balance here because we mentioned we don't want it to be too lightweight. It might turn out to be see-through. On the flip side of that, going a little bit too thick on your fabric, especially on a woven that doesn't have any stretch to it, it can feel a little bit clunky at your joints if you wear too thick. So I don't know if you've ever put on like a real thick pair of denim or like canvas overalls. It can be a little bit hard to like bend down and kneel down because it's just a thick, crunchy fabric. So I really love finding that balance between something that's dense enough not to see-through, but not so thick and chunky that you feel like you have to be like straight-armed the whole day. And so you can start to see here why for my clothing business and the sewing kits I sell, I always am going with a medium weight linen. I think it's like 5.3 ounces per yard as far as its density, and it has enough opacity that it's not see-through, but it's still nice and flowy. My personal top 2 recommendations for fabrics, which, like I said, you might have totally different opinions, but mine are mid-weight linen, softened, and if you're looking for something that's going to be more close up against your skin, I really recommend not see-through, organic cotton jersey, something with a little bit of stretch to it. I know I've gotten a fabric like this before from Organic Cotton Plus on their website, and I loved it. I've got the medium weight linen softened over in my online shop if you want to check there for what I've got. I'd say a runner-up for me would be a linen rayon blend. I've tried that before, and I felt like it had a lot of flowy, loose drape to it, but it had a lot of the properties of linen that I really like. But on the flip side, I've had a linen cotton blend that like chafed my nipples like no other. I hated it for a shirt, and so that all comes back to just say, try things out. It could be useful for you to just go to a fabric store and touch a bunch of different type of fabrics if you're trying to DIY, or go to a thrift store because they always have tons of different types of clothing at a thrift store. Go around, touch a bunch of different clothing, and actually really pay attention to what the garment label says that it's made out of. See what feels good to your skin. I think silk feels really nice. I know that wool sometimes feels really nice, depending on like the variety and how it's processed and everything. And I've heard really good things about bamboo. Let us know down in the comments what fabric you love wearing up against your skin the most. Maybe people can get some inspiration down there. If you're a little bit more of like a chemically sensitive person, you might look for fabrics that are OECO-TEX certified. That means it's certified to be free from like hundreds of harmful chemicals and toxins. Now, another point with fabrics, if you're going with linen, having the garment or the fabric be a softened linen is really key, because linen without any softening can be a little bit rough until you really wear it in and wash and dry it a lot. And so if you want something that feels good right off the bat, try and get a linen that is pre-softened. If you're starting with a linen that is kind of scratchy, but you really want to get it to that soft point a little bit faster, there's some ways that you can soften it. If you don't really have any sensitivities to chemicals, then you can really just try a regular softener. You know, like I think like Downy makes a fabric softener. I am somewhat skin sensitive, and I really like the softening potion from fabricstore.com. I've tried that on some unsoftened linens and it doesn't affect my skin. And I've also heard in one of your YouTube comments someone say that they've used Coca-Cola in the washing machine and that softened their fabric. That is at your own risk, but if you're looking for something weird to try, go for it. The next thing we want to think about is what our fabric is dyed with. Some skin types are more sensitive to dyes. If you're more just like mildly sensitive to dyes, then you want to look for at least the classification that the fabric is AZO free. That means it's free of a bunch of different harsh chemicals. If you think you might have more of an intense sensitivity to dyes, then you might try just going for purely undyed fabrics. I love my undyed white garments. I think they're so beautiful. I don't think they're boring at all. I think they look super classy. So if that's something you're worried about, undyed is not boring. If you're looking for color, you might consider naturally dyed fabrics. These are fabrics that are colored with pigments from plants, and sometimes there's minerals that kind of shift the hue or the tone of the color. But naturally dyed fabrics are the next best thing to being really skin sensitive. All of the garments over in my shop over at Charlie Darwin, you can get in naturally dyed colors, or if you get the black, it's not plant dyed, but it's at least AZO free. And I never treat any of my garments or fabrics that I sell with any detergents because I don't want them to interact with any of your skin sensitivities. Which brings me to my next point is if you are a little bit more of a skin sensitive person, you might try a skin sensitive detergent. I personally get really itchy skin from using Tide detergent, just like any real basic brand. So I've been using now for a few years clean and clear detergents. It has helped immensely with my itchiness from my clothes, especially like undergarment areas get really itchy after I've used something like Tide. And so I switched to clean and clear. I've been currently using, I think the brand's called First Generation, the one you can get from Target, but there's so many options out there of different clean and clear ones that are suitable for sensitive skin. All right, the next category that is super important to talk about is fit and customizations to fit. Whether you are sewing your own garment or you're shopping for one, I think getting the garment fit to your height is so important. Obviously, we all know about size. Like if you're sewing something or you're shopping, you want to get a small if you're a size small. You always want to check the size chart. Always check the size chart before you sew or buy clothing. But beyond that, it helps immensely to customize something by height, even if you think, oh, it's just going to be subtle, oh, it's just 1 inch different. This is exactly why I made my height adjustment calculator for all my DIYers who are sewing with sewing patterns. Basically, if a waistband is supposed to fall at a certain spot and it's made for someone way taller than you, the waistband's not going to hit at the right spot on you because it was made for someone that is a different height. And so it's going to fall at an awkward part on your body, and that might feel uncomfortable. It's not how the designer envisioned it hitting your body. And so if you're DIYing your own clothes, that means adjusting your patterns ahead of time. Again, I make that super easy. If you want to check out my height adjustment calculator, I've got a video that shows how I do that. But if you're shopping for clothes, of course, trying on is great ahead of time. If you have something that isn't hitting you at the right spot, you could always get it tailored, or you could just right from the start shop a more made to measure type of clothing. Over in my shop, I have you give me your height, so that way when I'm cutting out your exact garment, I can adjust how long or short the bodice and pants are, and that makes it feel so much better when you go to put it on. Now, if you're a DIYer, I also recommend that even after you've made adjustments by height, that you make a sample of your garment first. It could be in a fabric that like you thrifted, but it's still nice enough that you can wear this sample around, so it's not a total waste of your time. But you also don't want to pick a fabric that's so fancy that it's a waste if this garment doesn't go well. But basically, you want to make a sample, put it on, walk around in it for like an hour or a whole day and really do all of your daily stuff in it, like eat in it, go on a walk, bend down and reach something, reach up high for something, give yourself a hug, lay on the couch in it, see how it really feels to wear around, and then, do a body scan a few different times from head to toe to really check in with yourself on where is this hitting me wrong? Where is this bugging me? Where do I keep grabbing or twisting or pulling down? Or can I breathe? Can I eat? And you go into your real garment or your second make with even more knowledge about where you want to make changes. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is seam finishes. In a good feeling garment, you forget the seams are there. So there's a few different seam recommendations I have for you. And these are some of the types of seams that you might look for in garments to know if it's going to feel better against your skin. So I personally think the easiest type of seam finish that still feels pretty good against your skin is to have a regular sewn seam, then it's serged to protect that seam allowance so that it doesn't come unraveled and fray out everywhere. And then you use your iron to press that seam allowance to one side, flat against your garment, and then do a top stitch on it to really keep it flat up against your garment so it's not kind of wiggling around, pointing sharply kind of into your body. Now, in my opinion, the gold standard for a really comfortable seam finish is felled seams. I often do, I think what's called a double felled seam on like bodice midlines, but it also feels awesome to do a single felled seam on your pants. And extra bonus points if this felled seam is on the outside of your garment, like facing outwards, because that means that all that seam allowance is out here, not up against your skin, and then there's nothing but just the smooth fabric on the inside rubbing up against your skin. I don't think you could technically do felled seams for like every seam. There's probably like curves and little spots that felled seams would be a little bit harder in, but I think do them where you can because they feel so much better. Another seam finish that you could try out or look for in clothing that you're purchasing is having the seam allowance covered with like a cotton twill tape. That can give you like a really nice smooth finish and also really feel like the seams aren't there at all. All right, lastly, we're just gonna circle back around to closures and fastenings on garments. So thinking about our buttons, our zippers, and our ties, these are all the ways that we get in and out of a garment. Some of these things are not only just annoying to be able to get in and out of, but they might also, while you're wearing them, create pressure points or restrict movement in some way. I think that anything that has a zipper, it usually means that it's going to be tight up against your skin and not have an expansive quality about it, which just makes it feel harder to breathe and eat and live and bend in. Now, I thought about closures a lot on this sanctuary sewing pattern because first of all, a jumpsuit is really an interesting thing to design as far as how is someone going to get in and out of it, especially if it's not stretchy. And so for mine, I knew I wanted to do the elastic waist, and I don't do this elastic waist super cinched. It's just like, it just cinches just so it's touching my skin. It gives like a bit of that natural waistline, but it's by no means like digging into the skin. And then on the back, I really wanted to find a way to not have to use any zippers or too many buttons or ties because reaching to your back is a little bit difficult, right? And so I went with a flap closure. So it overlaps back here. I don't know if I can show you well on camera, but it overlaps in the back, the two pieces, so that, and then just buttons right at the top. And this means you can just open it up, get in, button it at the top, and you're all set. So that's one way to avoid a lot of that stress of things like difficult zippers. All right, I hope that this video gave you some good ideas on how to make or curate a wardrobe that really feels good to wear. Because I really feel that life is too short for living in scratchy seams and waistbands that cut off your circulation and don't let you eat the buffet at the wedding. Now, if you're dreaming of a jumpsuit that is super flowy, feels good to wear, it moves with your body as you live in real life, then you're going to want to keep your eyes peeled for my upcoming sanctuary jumpsuit sewing pattern. Now, if you don't sew or you just want one expertly tailored by me, you can head over to Charlie Darwin Textiles and just grab yours right now in your custom height and that nice pre-softened medium weight flowy linen that I love to use, naturally dyed. And if you want to DIY one yourself, I think you're going to love it. It's a pretty easy project to put together, and I work really, really hard to make the instructions super clear and easy to follow. So this can just be like a really fun, feel-good project for you. I hate friction on my body and in my projects. Anyway, I'm putting together this sewing pattern right now. It's going to release mid-March 2025. The best way to stay connected and find out about its release is by joining my email newsletter, which you can do down at the link in the description below. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Please like this video and then let us know in the comments what makes a piece of clothing feel really good to you to wear. Do you have a favorite fabric? Do you have a favorite sewing technique? Do you have a favorite design choice that you always look for? We'd love your tips down below. Let's collect a huge list of them down there. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I look forward to getting you in this sanctuary jumpsuit. I hope you have a good, cozy, comfortable day today. Love you all so much. Bye.